Hello friends, I hope you are fine. Today we are going to read chapter 18 of the book titled as The Hot Desert and Mid-Latitude Desert Climates. So let us start. Distribution. Deserts are regions of scanty rainfall, which may be hot like the hot deserts of the Saharan type or temperate as are the mid-latitude deserts like the Gobi. The aridity of the hot deserts is mainly due to the effects of offshore trade winds, hence they are also called trade wind deserts. The temperate deserts are rainless because of their interior location in the temperate latitudes, well away from the rain-bearing winds. The major hot deserts of the world are located on the western coast of continents between latitudes 15° and 30° north and south as shown in the figure. They include the Sahara Desert, the largest single stretch of desert which is 3200 miles from east to west and at least 1000 miles wide. Its total area of 3.5 million square miles is larger than all the 50 states of USA put together. The next biggest desert is the Great Australian Desert, which covers almost half of the continent. The other hot deserts are the Arabian Desert, Iranian Desert, Thar Desert, Kalahari Desert, and Namib deserts. In North America, the desert extends from Mexico in USA and is called by different names at different places. Example, the Mojave. Sonoran, Californian, and Mexican deserts. In South America, the Atacama or Peruvian desert is the driest of all deserts with less than zero point 0.5 inches of rainfall annually. Amongst the mid-latitude deserts, many are found on plateau and are at a considerable distance from the sea. These are the Gobi, Turkestan, and Patagonian desert. The Patagonian desert is more due to its rain shadow position on the leeward side of the lofty Andes than to continentality. Now, climate. Rainfall. Few deserts, whether hot or mid-latitude, have an annual precipitation of more than 10 inches. For example, William Creek in Australia has 5.4 inches, Kota in India has 4 inches, and Yuma, Arizona, USA has 3.3 inches. In Sala in the mid-Sahara and in Arica in the mid-Atacama have practically no rain at all. In the latter, less than 0.02 inches fell within a period of 17 years in 3 light showers. In another station less than 150 miles away at Ikunik, not a single drop of rain was recorded for 4 years, and then a torrential downpour suddenly came one afternoon in which 2.5 inches of rain fell. The aridity of deserts is the most outstanding feature of the desert climate. We shall examine more closely why they are so dry. The hot deserts lie astride the hot latitudes or the subtropical high pressure belts where the air is descending, a condition least favorable for precipitation of any kind to take place. The rain-bearing trade winds blow offshore and the westerlies that are onshore blow outside the desert limits. Whatever winds reach the deserts blow from cooler to warmer regions, and their relative humidity is lowered, making condensation almost impossible. There is scarcely any cloud in the continuous blue sky. The relative humidity is extremely low, decreasing from 60% in coastal districts to less than 30% in the desert interiors. Under such conditions, every bit of moisture is evaporated, and the deserts are thus regions of permanent drought. Precipitation is both scarce and most unreliable. Coastal stations like Massawa on the Red Sea, as illustrated in figure, receive light, scattered showers from the onshore winds amounting to 5.9 inches for the year. On the western coast, the presence of cold currents, indicated by arrows in the figure, gives rise to mists and fogs by chilling the oncoming air. This air is later warmed by contact with the hot land and little rain falls. The desiccating effect of the cloud Peruvian current along the Chilean coast is so pronounced that the mean annual rainfall for the Atacama Desert is not more than half an inch. Rain normally occurs as violent thunderstorms of the convectional type. It bursts suddenly and pours continuously for a few hours over small areas. An inch or more may be recorded in one single shower. The thunderstorm is so violent and comes so suddenly that it has disastrous consequences on desert landforms. The second one is temperature. The deserts are some of the hottest spots on earth and have high temperatures throughout the year. There is no cold season in the hot deserts, and the average summer temperature is around 86 degree Fahrenheit. The highest shade temperature recorded is 136 degree Fahrenheit on the 13th September 1922 at Al Azizia, 25 miles south of Tripoli, Libya, in the Sahara. Days are unbearably hot, and in the open barren sands 170 degree Fahrenheit is often recorded. The regions for the high temperatures are obvious: a clear, cloudless sky, intense insolation, dry air, and a rapid rate of evaporation. Coastal deserts, by virtue of their maritime influence and the cooling effect of the cold currents, have much lower temperatures. Example, Africa has a mean annual temperature of 66 degree Fahrenheit. Iquique, 65 degree Fahrenheit. Walvis Bay, Southwest Africa, only 63 degree Fahrenheit. The hottest months seldom rise beyond 70 degree Fahrenheit, and the annual temperature range is equally small. Example, 9 degree Fahrenheit. In Arica, 10 degree Fahrenheit. In Iquique, and 10 degree Fahrenheit in Walvis Bay. The desert interiors, however, experience much higher summer temperatures, and the winter months are rather cold. For example, in Sala, in the Sahara, has a temperature of 99 degree Fahrenheit in the hottest month, but only 55 degree Fahrenheit in the coldest month. But the annual range is 44 degree Fahrenheit. The range for Yuma is 36 degree Fahrenheit, and for Jacobabad is 41 degree Fahrenheit. In comparison, the station Massawa, illustrated in the figure, located near the coast facing the Red Sea, has only a moderate range of 17 degree Fahrenheit. Its hottest month is July, 95 degree Fahrenheit, and its coldest month is January, 78 degree Fahrenheit. The diurnal range of temperature in the deserts is very great. Intense insolation by day in a region of dry air and no clouds causes the temperature to rise with the sun. The barren ground is so intensely heated that by noon, particularly in summer, a reading of 120 degree Fahrenheit is common, but as soon as the sun sets, the land loses heat very quickly by radiation, and the mercury column in the thermometer drops to well below the mean temperature. A daily temperature range of 30 degree to 40 degree Fahrenheit is common. Though in the Death Valley of California, an exceptionally great diurnal range of 74 degree Fahrenheit has been recorded. Frosts may occur at night in winter. These extremes of temperature make desert living most trying. This explains why the desert people wear thick gowns all day long to protect themselves from the glaring heat by day and chilling frost by night, not to mention the sand grains that are carried by the wind. Now we are going to read climatic conditions in the mid-latitude deserts. The climatic conditions of the mid-latitude deserts are in many ways similar to those of the hot deserts. Aridity is the keynote. These inland basins lie hundreds of miles from the sea and are sheltered by the high mountains all around them. As a result, they are cut off from the rain-bearing winds. Occasionally, depressions may penetrate the Asiatic continental mass and bring light rainfall in winter, or unexpected convectional storms may bless the parched lands with brief showers in summer. For example, Kashgar in western China, in the Gobi Desert, as illustrated in the figure, has most of its 3.5 inches of annual precipitation in the summer. Due to their coldness and elevation, snow falls in winter. From figure 132, it is clear that summers are very hot, 80 degree Fahrenheit in July at Kashgar, and winters are extremely cold with 2 months below freezing point. The annual range of temperature is 58 degree Fahrenheit, much greater than that of the hot deserts. Continentality accounts for these extremes in temperature. Winters are often severe, freezing lakes and rivers, and strong cold winds blow all the time. When the ice thaws in early summer, floods occur in many places. The greatest inhibiting factors to settlement are the winter cold and the permanent aridity, besides remoteness from the sea. Now, desert vegetation. All deserts have some form of vegetation, such as grass, scrub, herbs, weeds, roots, or bulbs. Though they may not appear green and fresh all the time, they lie dormant in the soil awaiting rain, which comes at irregular intervals or once in many years. The environment, so lacking in moisture and so excessive in heat, is most unfavorable for plant growth, and a significant vegetation cannot be expected. But very rarely are there deserts where nothing grows. The predominant vegetation of both hot and mid-latitude deserts is xerophytic or drought-resistant scrub. This includes the bulbous cacti, thorny bushes, long-rooted wiry grasses, and scattered dwarf acacias. Trees are rare except where there is abundant groundwater to support clusters of date palms. Along the western coastal deserts, washed by cold currents as in the Atacama Desert, the mists and fogs formed by the chilling of warm air over cold currents roll inland and nourish a thin cover of vegetation. Plants that exist in deserts have highly specialized means of adapting themselves to the arid environment. Intense evaporation increases the salinity of the soil so that the dissolved salts tend to accumulate on the surface, forming hard pans. Absence of moisture retards the rate of decomposition, and desert soils are very deficient in humus. Plants, whether annuals or perennials, must struggle for survival against both aridity and poor soil. Most desert shrubs have long roots and are well spaced out to gather moisture and search for groundwater. Plants have few or no leaves, and the foliage is either waxy, leathery, hairy, or needle shaped to reduce the loss of water through transpiration. Some of them are entirely leafless, which with pricks or thorns. Others, like the cacti, have thick, succulent stems to store up water for long droughts. There are still others that shed their leaves during droughts. The seeds of many species of grasses and herbs have thick, tough skins to protect them while they lie dormant. They germinate at once when their seeds are moistened by the next rain. In short, all plants must adapt themselves to survive in such an inhospitable region as the desert. You can see your desert plants in Arizona. Now we are going to read Life in the Deserts. Despite its inhospitality, the desert has always been peopled by different groups of inhabitants. They struggle against an environment deficient in water, food, and other means of livelihood. Some, like the Egyptians, have attained a high level of civilization. Others, like the Bedouin Arabs, have fared quite well with their flocks of sheep, goats, camels, and horses. The Bushmen of the Kalahari and the Bindubi of Australia remain so primitive in their mode of living that they barely survive. They are in fact a relic of the old Stone Age in the modern world. The desert inhabitants may be grouped under the following categories. First, the primitive hunters and collectors. Of the primitive tribes, the Bushmen and the Bindubi are the best known. Both the tribes are nomadic hunters and food gatherers, growing no crops and domesticating no animals. The Bushmen roam the Kalahari Desert with their bows and poisoned arrows, spears, traps, and snares. They are not only skillful and strong, but have great endurance. In order to capture their prey, they have to be very patient and, if necessary, run many miles to track down the wounded animals. In this way, they hunt antelope and other smaller animals. The women and children collect insects, rodents, and lizards and gather honey, roots, grass, and grubs. Great skill is required in obtaining water in the desert. Dew is carefully gathered from leaves early in the morning and stored in ostrich shells. Very often, it is necessary to dig a hole in damp sand and suck the water up from the ground through a hollow reed. This is often a very slow process. Bushmen either wear a loincloth or go virtually naked. They travel in small family groups and live together in open shams. This is a hollow dug beneath a thorn tree surrounded by bushes. At night, a fire is lit to keep the family warm. The Bindubu or Aboris giants of Australia live in very much the same way as the Bushmen. They are lean and dark but healthy. They are skilled trackers, and some of them use wooden throwing sticks or boomerangs and spears. They also domesticate the dingo, a wild dog, that assists them in tracking down kangaroos, rabbits, and birds. The women gather grass, roots, seeds, berries, moles, and insects to supplement their diet. Like the wandering bushmen, the Bindibu move in family groups in search of fresh hunting grounds, but one distinct difference is that they always stay close to a water supply, as they still have not devised a means of tapping and storing water. They live in wurleys, simple shelters made of branches and tufts and grass. The second one is the nomadic herdsmen. These people represent a more advanced group of desert dwellers who pursue a livestock economy. They ride on animals instead of walking and are heavily clad against the blazing sun, the stormy winds, and the chilly nights. The Bedouin of Arabia ride on horses and live in tents. The Tuaregs of the Sahara are camel riders and dwell in the grass zeriba, while the Gobi Mongols ride on horses to herd their yaks and live in portable booths, a kind of tent. The Bedouin are the best examples of a desert group who have fared well as nomadic herdsmen. Besides keeping large flocks of animals, they are also engaged in trade with the caravan merchants and the oasis people all around the year. The Bedouin wander with their herds in search of water and green pastures. Their wealth is their animals sheep, goats, camels, and perhaps a few horses. The animals provide them with all that they require daily milk and cheese, and on occasions, meat as well. Their skin is used for hides or leather for making tents, clothing, belts, footwear, and water bags. From the hair and wool, the Bedouin make clothes, mats, ropes, rugs, and carpets. These can also be exchanged at trading stations or oases for other necessities of life which the desert herdsmen cannot produce, like dates, grain, beverages, medicines, firearms, and other manufactured articles. The Bedouin move in groups of about 100. They follow a regular pattern of routes along which are scanty patches of pastures, wells, or springs. In this manner, one group rarely clashes with the other in their search for new grounds to pitch their tents. Since they move so often, they always travel light and only the essentials are carried along. The third one is the caravan traders. These were the traveling merchants of the desert. Their journeys across the wastes of the Sahara or Russian Turkestan sometimes lasted months or even years. They traveled at night as a team and were well armed. They carried a wide range of goods into remote interiors where their merchandise was highly sought after. These goods were sold or exchanged for hides, rugs, carpets, and other valuable products of the deserts. Though profits were high, the risks were equally great. The pack animal used by the caravans to carry their goods across the deserts was the camel, aptly described as the sheep of the desert. Unlike horses, which have sharp hooves that sink readily in the sandy desert, the camel has broad padded feet that will not slip in the sand. A pack camel, adequately fed, can carry a load of 350 pounds and travel 50 miles a day, and a racing camel can do twice the distance when ridden. The camel has several other advantages. It provides milk and hair. It can store up water in its stomach and fat in its hump so that it can go for long periods without either food or water. With the introduction of modern air, road, and rail transport, the role of the caravan traders is greatly reduced. Goods can be conveyed much more cheaply and with greater security by desert jeeps, vans, or trucks. But between the interior oases and scattered outposts beyond the reach of roads, the caravan routes remain the only form of available transport. The fourth one is the settled cultivators. For crops to be cultivated in the desert, irrigation is indispensable. This is obtained either from oases, rivers, or dams through a network of canals. In Egypt, the Nile supports a population of 25 million, mainly concentrated in the Nile Valley and Delta. The life-giving waters of the Nile made it possible for the Egyptians to raise many crops as early as 5,000 years ago. When the Nile flooded in summer, the overflowed water was caught in basins with raised banks and led into the fields to irrigate the crops. This was basin irrigation, which was widely practiced by the ancient Egyptian farmers and is still employed by the Egyptians today. Rice and cotton are cultivated in summer, followed by wheat, barley, beans, and other minor crops in winter. Modern concrete dams constructed across the Nile, example Aswan and Sennar dams, are even more effective for extensive irrigation works. The flood water can be held back and controlled and then released at any part of the year to feed the fields that yield 2, 3, or even more crops a year. In the same way, desert cultivators rely on the Indus in Pakistan and the Tigris Euphrates in Iraq and the Colorado in the Imperial Valley of California and are able to irrigate millions of acres of arid land for crop production. In the deserts, wherever there are oases, some form of settled life is bound to follow. These are depressions of varying sizes where underground water reaches the surface. Some of them are abnormally large, like the Tafilalet oasis in Morocco, which measures 5,000 square miles, supporting many settlements, including large towns. Others may be so small that they are no bigger than the mining pools that we are so familiar with. Example, the Ghadames oasis of Libya is only 1 square mile in size. Life is an oasis is secure and well organized. A wall is usually constructed around the oasis to keep out the violent dust storms called simoons. The oasis people live in mud brick houses with flat roofs, closely packed together. The streets are narrow and winding, and the heart of the settlement is dominated by the souk, central marketplace, the mosque, school, and shopping blocks. Souks may also be set up miles from anywhere, and people come from a number of surrounding settlements on special days to trade. Around the settlement are the agricultural lands. Water is led to the fields by irrigation channels or drawn up from wells by camels or mules. The most important tree is the date palm, which is grown in dug out hollows so that its roots can penetrate deep into the ground in search of water. The fruit is consumed locally and also exported. Other crops cultivated include maize, barley, wheat, cotton, cane, sugar, fruits, and vegetables. With the development of motor routes across the deserts, many sophisticated foreign goods can now reach the oasis. The fifth one is the mining settlers. The lure of mineral wealth has attracted many immigrants into the desert. Mining camps and isolated settlements have sprung up following the discovery of certain mineral deposits. It was gold that brought immigrants scrambling into the great Australian desert. Water and food supplies have to be brought 300 miles from Perth to keep the mines going. Some of them, like Kalgoorlie and Coolgardie, have become towns of considerable size. In the Kalahari Desert, the discovery of diamonds and the copper has brought many white men to the thirst land, as it is called. Even in the most arid Atacama in northern Chile, large mining camps have been established for the mining of calice, cemented gravels from which sodium nitrate, a valuable fertilizer, is extracted and exported to all parts of the world. The mines are worked by local Indian laborers and are supervised by foreign technicians. Besides nitrates, copper is also mined. These two products have directly or indirectly contributed to the growing size of the Chilean towns of Arica, Iquique, Antofagasta, and Suquicamata. The last named is the world's largest copper town. Similarly, in the deserts of North America, silver is mined in Mexico, uranium in Utah, and copper in Nevada. A host of other minerals and their byproducts have in fact greatly altered the landscape and the economy of such arid regions. In recent years, the discovery of oil in many parts of the Saharan and Arabian deserts has transformed this forgotten part of the globe. In Algeria, oil wells have been sunk 2 miles deep to tap oil. In the Middle East, pipelines over 1,000 miles long have been laid to bring oil from the shores of the Persian Gulf across Saudi Arabia to Saida, Lebanon, and Benias, Syria on the Mediterranean coast. With still half of the world's reserves of oil untapped in this region, the deserts here will virtually be paved with gold. In Iraq, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, the desert landscape is fast changing. New roads, huge palaces, ultra modern hospitals, air conditions, apartments, and swimming pools are examples of a thriving new era created entirely by oil, liquid gold. With this, our chapter ends, and in the next video, we will read the next chapter. Till then, study well.